Thank you so much for joining us, Xavi. It's so nice to have you on. How are you doing today, with the global situation in your environment? How are you feeling?
Well, first of all, thank you, Amy, thank you, Ed, and all the team. I think this is a beautiful initiative. I've been listening to what Thomas from the Common Goal said, also your conversation that you were having, and I think that um, you're doing the hard part of connecting everyone and sharing this all this learning that is definitely valuable and priceless for everyone. And
Mhm,
regarding the whole this situation, I'm based in Barcelona, in Spain, and here I think that we are getting to the peak of the global health situation. And fortunately, I think that the right decisions are being made, and people are conscious about what we have to do to stay home, and also what are the essential also needs and duties that we need to be running. And I think that now we're going downhill at some point. So yeah, hoping that this can end soon for everyone and we can enjoy going out and also sports again.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic to see at least you're positive throughout the situation. That's definitely what matters. And I'm glad to have you, join us despite of everything that's happening and commit your time. So I'll get right into it. Please tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thank you, Amy. I work as a sports marketing consultant and with a special focus on women's football. Um, in 2017, I wanted to play an active role in a global movement that was taking place, which was providing greater visibility and empowering women in sports. So I decided to take part of it, and I started my journey in sports marketing. But when I reflected on how I could make a big impact and also have fun, I decided to take this sign up for this challenge, and
Mm-hmm,
I started my journey in women's football, working at the UEFA Women's Euro in the
mm-hmm,
Netherlands in 2017. It was such a great experience for me because I got to learn from, I believe, the top professionals in football, and also in delivering a great and a major sports event as it is a women's Euro.
yeah,
And from then I decided to start my journey as a sports marketing consultant, and with the mission of creating meaningful brands we can be proud of. And I think, Amy, that in marketing, from a marketing perspective, we have two choices. We can
mm-hmm,
be either the cheapest one, and
mm-hmm,
in that field there will always be someone who will be cheaper than you, and or
yeah,
we can be different. So I
mm-hmm,
try to help brands in sports, and particularly in women's football, to be different and to engage with fans, with media, with sponsors, and with different stakeholders. So with that objective, I started to work as a sports marketing consultant. I have worked with players from FC Barcelona, also currently now working with Rocky Rodriguez. She plays
mm-hmm,
for Portland Thorns in the NWSL in United
mm-hmm,
States, and I'm involved with different projects in with clubs as well, and also with UEFA Men's Euro that was going to happen in July this year, but it will be hosted next year. But
mm-hmm,
health is first. So, and well, during my career, I have also participated in courses in the education sector, and I believe that what you're doing is very valuable from a also an educational standpoint, because you're sharing priceless value. And in that sense, I have delivered courses in Saudi Arabia about sports business. We met at
mm-hmm.
the Athens Women's Football Summit where we both participated.
Perfect.
And well, in summary, I try to build these meaningful brands in sports so they can be different and connect meaningfully.
Thank you for that. So, before we talk about more about you in terms of marketing and sport, I just want to touch on definitely something that I'm curious about, and I'm sure the live audience is curious about, which is, your involvement in women's sport. How did you get into that, and why did you get into that?
That's a good question. When I started in men's football here in Spain, working for a second division football club, and it was a great experience for me. We got promoted regarding the division, and I learned a lot. I came and I was a marketing intern, but I was the only one in the department, so I got to learn from every area.
Mm-hmm,
And from there, I started working and leading the marketing department at a motorsports company that organizes international events. And I think that jumping into women's football was the answer to questions. The first one was where could I could have the biggest fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that in the end you have to enjoy it. And the other one was where can make the biggest impact. And since I've been related to football my whole life, I believe that football was the area that I could provide the most valuable knowledge and experience. So I decided to try with women's football, and somehow I started writing a blog about women's football, and I got the opportunity to be at the UEFA Women's Euro,
Mm-hmm.
and initially I applied as a volunteer. I didn't know what I was going to be working with, and they
Mm-hmm.
liked my blog, my profile, so they asked me to spend there a whole month instead of 2 weeks, helping the to run and to organize the marketing activities there in the Netherlands. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I could add the marketing that women's football needed. And on the other hand, I thought that I could learn a lot with women's football, and I believe it has a different atmosphere and it's special. And I wanted to be part of it, as I mentioned, to empower women in sports,
Mm-hmm.
and to put maybe to package the product and all the potential it has, because it's also an spectacle and such a great sport. And actually last year I was in France covering the FIFA Women's World Cup, covering for a top sports media outlet here in Spain, Mundo Deportivo, and I had the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to see. I think that the top level in sports, either men's and women's. So I'm proud of being part of growth in the women's game.
Yeah, no, fantastic. That's definitely great. To the live audience, if you have any questions for Xavi as he speaks, please definitely, leave a comment, and I'll definitely bring it up. Xavi, you've got some great words from Lucy offering you words of encouragement, so this is great. It's nice to know that she's following the conversation. I just want to talk more actually about, the role that, so I'm just reflecting on this whole conversation that we've been having today, and the only conversations we've had about women's football have actually been with women like Lucy, like Charlotte, so, and women's sport in general. So I just want to know what you can share in terms of the role of men, being supporters of the development of the women's game. It could be football or sports in general, but just the role that men have to play in terms of women's development.
Hmm. Thank you, Amy. I think that that's a great question. Generally, I think that men are not involved enough in the development and promotion of women's football, especially women's football or women's sports. For instance, we saw here in Spain that when the collective agreement was signed, I think 2 months ago, the first ever collective agreement for women's football for Spanish players, we saw some tweets and messages from men's players, but maybe I missed a leader, someone from men's football that could step up and be bold and show his character to make this happen. I think that somehow we see some also activations. For instance, here in Barcelona, we have every year, and Lucy can tell maybe a little bit more about. Since she's working for Barcelona, they do the picture together with the men's and the women's team, and we are seeing that there are more activities that they are done by both of them, either from the social standpoint. But I think that we need a lot more. We need a lot more, because in the end we are talking about brands. If we are running a club, for instance, we are showing purpose, brands, personality, and also the message that from a club logo from is the same brand. And in that sense, I think somehow we are having both worlds very separated. And we have
Mhm,
some good examples. We have Manchester City, for instance. They launched the campaign, same city, same passion, and
mhm,
it's not everywhere that we have the men's team that maybe it's bigger and it generates more revenue than the women's team. For instance, in Portland, where Rocky plays at Portland Thorns, they average I think it's 22 more than 20,000 spectators per game. I mean, it's madness in women's football here in Europe. We don't have, I think we don't have any club that averages more than 2,000 spectators per game, and they are
mhm,
averaging more than 20,000. So it's madness. And the reason why is because they have built a culture, a club culture that is very attached to the city, to what people believe. And I think that this is what we need more of that in women's football, creating these brands that can be meaningful to fans. And
mhm,
and yes, and answering your question, I think that we have a long way to go, but we
Mm.
are already seeing initiatives that are supporting the women's team as they deserve. But
Mhm.
sometimes they need to step up, as when they did the strike here in Spain for the collective agreement, or as Megan Rapinoe has used her personality to claim and to protest against, for instance, the World Cup prize for the
Yeah.
women's and men's. So
Mhm.
yeah, we are kind of progressing, but we can do a lot more, I think.
Great. I'm glad. And I hope, the men that are following this conversation can see that and understand from Shavi how it is important. I love the fact I'm always reluctant towards always having this conversation with the female side because it looks like it's a one-way street. But what you highlight, which is great, is that it's so important for both parties to be involved because, when the men support the women, then everything can progress effectively. So I'll actually just bring up a question before we continue the conversation. We've got a question that says, how to be more involved as an individual, specifically as a sports lawyer and women's development in football. What would you recommend?
Yes, thank you, Tajana, for your question. I would recommend to pick a challenge. I would recommend to, within the both areas of sports, of being a lawyer, sports lawyer, and women's football, picking a challenge that you sign up for, as I did with the necessity, the need of promoting women's football, and see where does the intersection with among between being a sports lawyer and women's football need you the most. It could be player representation. It could be supporting and helping clubs, for instance. So I think that first you have to decide who you want to address: clubs, players, stakeholders, leagues, federations, and what kind of benefit do you want to provide. So who's it for? What's it for? At what challenge are you signing for? And then once you decide that, based on your strength, based on the potential that it can have, or based on also the needs that players or clubs have, I think that it's important also to work on your personal brand so you can be seen as a solution. Sometimes it seems that working on a personal brand is having many followers on Instagram or Twitter, but in the end, building a personal brand is, to me, it's measured as if you were missed, if you were gone. I mean, if you are missed when you don't show up with content or with services, that's when you have a strong personal brand. So it's important to be different, because it's the same for players. Imagine that we have a brand like Iberdrola or Visa. They want to invest in women's football, and they want to invest and to sponsor a player. If that player isn't different, I mean, she will not have any potential to get sponsorship. So it's the same with professionals. We have to be different and try to expose and to show our best work. So in a nutshell, I would say pick who you want to address, what benefit are you offering, pick a challenge, and also work on your personal brand to be seen as a to be seen and to be trusted as a professional in that field.
Fantastic. It's great that she brought that up because I wanted to talk more about, your involvement in sports and marketing, and which has led to sports marketing in general, because we've been having some conversations earlier where, people in IT are wondering, how to make that shift. And we're having conversations about integrating two career paths in order to, follow your passion but still do what you specialize in. So do you mind just talking a bit about, I believe your background is in marketing and how you manage, to make an effective shift into linking that into sports, and what other people who are viewing this who specialize in something else, be it marketing or something different, but have a passion for sports, can actually learn to integrate that one aspect with the other.
Sure, Amy, and especially with IT, I think that the mix of technology and sports marketing it has a huge potential. I would like to step a little bit earlier as from that question, and wonder what is marketing. If we start from that, to me, marketing is making a change to make.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's a quote that I love from Seth Godin that says marketing is about making things better by making better things. So making
Mm-hmm.
things better by making better things. So I believe that we can do that in sports, and I think that uh, to do that, what we need is to tell stories. We understand the world with stories. Every one of us, regardless of the sector, if it's fashion, if it's football, if it's technology, if it's gastronomy, for instance, we tell stories about what we buy, what we see, who we trust, who we follow on social media. And so
Mm,
storytelling is key, learning how to tell stories. And in sports, that's marketing, telling a story to a fan to come to the stadium, telling a story to a sponsor to convince them to sponsor and to invest on the team, telling the story to media to tell appealing news. So I think that storytelling is key. And if there is someone that's not working in sports marketing and would like to do so, I think that there are different pillars that are very important. The first one is knowledge, know how the industry works, how which are the main players, how they interact together, and it's also very important to know which challenges are the most important ones nowadays. And to me, the most important challenges, the first one is to generate revenue,
mhm,
because and especially nowadays, because most of the clubs and sports properties need to pay their employees, their athletes as well, and to that is very important to know how to provide value. And to provide value is very important to know who you're addressing to, which is your target
mhm,
market. It can be a company, it can be a fan, for instance. So obsessing about your target market is very important. So we have talked about storytelling, and also this pillar of the challenge, of knowing which challenge you want to pick. The other one that I would mention is networking. It's very important to start and to grow a meaningful network. And to do that, I would suggest or advise something that has worked for me, which is giving before asking, approaching people by giving with ideas, with proposals, with time. So I think that in the end is knowing how to resolve these challenges in a close way. And also right now, another big challenge that sports properties face is how to engage in the digital environment. Now we're seeing a lot of initiatives as La Liga Fest, La Liga Santander Fest. It was a huge music fest that it gathered artists as Shakira, for instance, I think Alejandro Sanz, the top ones in Juan Magan, the tops in the world. And they collected more than 1 million euros for donations to do here, I think in Spain in the health sector, and with more than 5 million people following the concert. So what it tells us is that it's important also to engage in digital, and we have more competition because everyone is launching webinars, content in digital and social media. So it's important to know how to engage and to build loyal relationships in digital. So to sum up a little bit, this that can be seem a little bit disorganized. I would say storytelling, also
mhm.
pick a challenge, grow a network, and your personal brand as well. In the end, building a meaningful brand, it could be as a professional, but also if you want to shift from, for instance, IT to sports marketing.
Fantastic. No, I think I definitely resonated with you on picking a challenge. That's something I struggled to do, when I was starting, it was just everywhere and, not really focusing on one thing. And I did face a lot of challenges because of that. So I want to reiterate that yeah, that's definitely an important point that you mentioned. I just want to bring up some of the comments. You're absolutely, a live favorite. You've got people saying that, yeah, they totally agree with you. There's a lot to grow and make for equality in the favor of women. We have Lucy Michael come in, and she said, "What a great conference! She's happy to follow and learn from different speakers with vast experience in industry." And she speaks about women and says that currently women are breaking barriers and getting out of their comfort zone to play sport, especially male-dominated sports, which is a big success compared to the past. It's a great job. So it's great to know, that people are actually interacting with what you're saying, as someone who is involved in women's sports. So I'm happy to hear that. I just want to move more, we've talked about, on a big level and on an organization level, but I want to talk more about you and, your own self-development. Can you please share with the live audience what one skill that has helped you, grow and, in your career today is just one skill that's helped you develop into who you are today?
Sorry, Amy, to start with four skills. I was listening to Thomas, and he mentioned curiosity, and I always like to identify myself with four skills: curiosity, creativity, empathy, and positivity as well. And I didn't know that positivity could be a skill, but I
Yeah.
think that within many situations I'm positive, so it helps me to find solutions. But if I had to pick one, I would pick creativity.
Mhm.
Um, I think that creativity allows us to pick a clean sheet and design what we want to do, what we want to sign up for, and know ourselves. I think that self-awareness is very important, to know your strengths, to know your passions, and to know also what kind of life you want to create, either from a professional or personal standpoint. And to me, creativity is the possibility, but also responsibility to create your life, and to do that is very important, as we said, to know yourself, so you can define which kind of companies, projects, products and services you feel identified with, and also define which is your purpose, because today we are seeing that many employees, regardless of the sector, they don't feel identified with their companies because they don't share a vision, they don't share a purpose. So it's very important to do that, and to do that we have to have to take pen and paper and try to know ourselves the most in order to create our project. This is what I did when I decided to step into women's football, to see if I could provide value. And and I think that the the other path, or the other career made that for you, that's the best one. I mean, not trying to emulate. I mean, you can have mentors, you can have people you admire, but in the end, trying to be as the more faithful you can be to yourself. I think it's the path to fulfillment as well.
Fantastic. And actually, on your point with creativity, I know a lot of people, I've heard a lot of young people, when they're told to be creative, it's just like a thing that they constantly hear, be creative, be creative. But in terms of putting that into practice, how would you tell someone, if they're struggling with creativity, how does that look like? How can someone build this skill and implement that in their daily life?
Well, I wanted to recall a quote from The Alchemist, a book that I really like, that says that the world's greatest lie is when we come to believe that at some point our lives are controlled by fate, that we no longer have control on our lives. And I think it has to do a lot with creativity, and a lot to do with acknowledging that we have the opportunity to build our own life. And from a practical standpoint, I think that the way to apply creativity is simply to listen. Listen to you, to have that, to develop that empathy, to listen to others and to listen to you. What is your intuition? What is what you like? What is what people have tell you about? What is the feedback that you have received in terms, so you can identify which are your strengths, your weaknesses, and also which kind of environment you have lived up to. So I think it's about listening, not a lot about drawing or writing. So it's listening. So when you create, you know exactly what to do. And I think that many times we feel disconnected with brands, with jobs, with many things surrounding us, because we don't know ourselves. Because once we do it, being creative and knowing how to advance yourself, it's easy. And the other thing that I would like to mention is action. Sometimes we think that we will find purpose in the supermarket, and it will be easy to buy and to identify it, but it's not the way. It's a discovery. I think knowing what you want to do in life, it's something that you have to keep building on it. You start with a small step that will lead you to a bigger step, and in the end, it's beautiful to look backwards and to see and to realize the things that you have done that you couldn't have imagined. So action is very important to discover it. And many times we want all the answers from day one, and we have to start from one answer on the first day and keep growing from that. So I would say listening to you and to others, and small action to end up doing big things.
Fantastic. Now, as we wrap up, Xavi, I'm very curious to know, in terms of the current situation, how would you say that, obviously with the health situation that's happening, how has that affected, your industry and business in general, and how are you coping with that?
Well, it has affected totally. Sports and football is nothing without fans, and we cannot have fans right now in stadiums enjoying football. And obviously, sponsors, they are also struggling, because they have paid, they have signed contracts, and they cannot see most of the value returned, and most of them comes from TV, which is the main source for many clubs to generate income and to pay players. But on the other hand, I think that it comes a great opportunity. It comes an opportunity to show how a brand, how a club, for instance, or an athlete really is, and knowing how to engage with your audience on a digital from a digital standpoint. And I think that this kind of challenge will do like a huge. There's this Pareto law that says that 80% of the outcome is comes from the 20% of the clients or the activities, and I think it will be a huge filter to do work that matters, to do the important work, to care about our fans, to care about our sponsors, and from it's sad that we can not longer enjoy football or sports until some months from now, but I mean, I think on the other hand, it's beautiful the opportunity that we have to back up and to support all our fans in the digital environment. For instance, I work with, as I mentioned, Rocky from Portland Thorns, and we are launching a lot of content regarding being entertaining content and content also conscious about staying home. And I think that we have that opportunity to tell our fans that we are not only sports brands. We are not only what happens on the pitch, but we are meaningful partners to them. And that's how we build and how we advance culture in sports, because fans want brands and clubs that care, that are brave enough to be there in the difficult situations. And this is why we love Megan Rapinoe, because she uses her voice to improve the sport. So we have that opportunity, and to me it has impacted also a lot. Obviously, there are projects as the UEFA Men Zero that will no longer
Yeah.
happening this year, but the ones that I can continue and follow up from that, I'm giving 100%. And as we and with Rocky, we are launching a lot of content. And as we said, I'm also preparing an exclusive education course for a top club in Mexico for the women's team. So there are many opportunities that come from this situation. I'm also building content for my blog, xavibove.es, a blog about women's football marketing, also preparing a lot of projects in the sports, in the sponsorship side, and also taking time to learn, to redefine strategy. I will start a course from Seth Godin about freelancing to improve my work as a freelancer. And also I had the opportunity to launch 2 weeks ago a project, a social project called Job Mission, or Misión Empleo in Spanish. It's a free online course for unemployed people that want to find a job, or for people that are employed and they want to be more prepared. So I got a lot of advice from professionals. I think we have more than 10 professionals that send advice. I recorded 10 sessions, free sessions for everyone. They are on my website. They are in Spanish. And the goal is to help and to provide tools and knowledge for them to land a job. And I was checking yesterday, more than 400 visits, and we have had more than 400 visits to the website, and also positive feedback. So I think that contributing from the marketing consultancy side, learning and trying to provide learning to others, as you're doing with this great online summit.
Fantastic. I think, I mean, with everything you've said, the main thing is that it's just opportunity, opportunity. You know what I love is that you didn't focus on the challenge at hand, but you flipped the conversation and talked more about everything that can change and everything that can come out of it, which is brilliant. And I hope, the viewers are taking note of that. For anyone who's watching, as he said, I think this is someone very interesting. If you're unemployed or if you're employed and, would like ways to restructure yourself better, I think Xavi would be a very interesting person to speak to. As he said, he's gathered resources and he's very keen on helping other people grow and be educated more. So Xavi, can you share? I know you've mentioned your website, which I'll just ask you in a moment to share the address again for the viewers to know. But is there any other way that people can get in touch with you if they'd like to reach out to you?
Sure. Yes, I'm present on Twitter. You just have to look for Xavi Bové. Also Instagram, LinkedIn with my name, XIVIBOVE, Xavi Bové, and also my blog is xavibove.es. I publish content every day. and I send an email every 15 days free for everyone that signs up for the newsletter with an article about women's football marketing and also about sports marketing. And I send free ebooks, interviews, articles, many free stuff for everyone to learn. And you'll be more than welcome to join the tribe.
Fantastic. So you see, to the live audience, there's absolutely no excuse not to get into the sports industry. There's people here who are offering these resources for free. So there you have it from Xavi. This was a brilliant interview with you. To the viewers, please share on the Facebook Live what you've learned from him, what your biggest takeaway from this session with him has been. You can also, take that over to Twitter, tag him, of course, as he shared his account, and use the hashtag Spirit of Sport. Thank you so much for joining us, Chavi. It's been a brilliant conversation. I'm very happy to have you on.
Thank you, Amy. It's been a great pleasure, and I want to congratulate you and all the team for this great effort that you're doing. And also thank you to everyone that has been listening. And if you have any further question, you can always reach me on social media, and we can engage. I wish you a safe and healthy times right now, but also time to reflect how you can take this as a big opportunity to grow. So thank you, Amy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.